Hey there, it's August 14th, and I wanted to check in about a couple of books that I've finished over the last 2 days. So yesterday, August 13th, I finished The Women I Think About at Night, Traveling the Paths of My Heroes by Mia Kankimaki, translated from the Finnish by Douglas Smith, I think. I'll put the picture up here so you can see the translator. No, Douglas Robinson. Sorry, not Douglas Smith. So this was a nonfiction book for women in translation. And in this book, Mia Kankimaki talks about a bunch of women that she came to research and admire because they broke the mold of their time in some way. They went against the grain in terms of what women were expected to do and what they were allowed to do, as a matter of fact. So in each of the sections, the book is divided up into several sections. In each of the sections, she follows 1 to 3 women who did something particularly interesting, or at least something she thought was particularly interesting, went against the sort of the social codes, the social mores of the time. And it was really, really interesting, these different women, these night women, as she called them, women that she thought about at night. And in order to learn more about these women, not only did Mia research them in terms of their own primary documents that they wrote, either books or letters or whatever that they wrote, but she also went to the places that these women traveled to, because many of these women traveled to places like Africa, Japan, just many different places. And so a lot of the women were alive in the 1800s, some were in the early 1900s. And then the last woman she talks about is a Japanese artist who is still alive, I believe. And so, you get women throughout the last 200 years and what they get up to in terms of either being female explorers or female artists or being creative in some way. And it was really fascinating to read these different historical tidbits about these women. And then interspersed with that, Mia talks about her own experiences traveling to these different locations, breaking the rules in terms of, today and what people expect of women, because Mia herself is in her 40s. She's not in a long-term partnership. She doesn't have children. And even today, women, there's this expectation that women will have that sort of family life and provide caretaking to family members, and that there is still this expectation for women to take care of others and to not pursue their own ideas of what their dreams are or what their aspirations are. So I really enjoyed that. I thought that the last bit of the book was perhaps a little bit more loosey-goosey than the rest of it and not so clearly on topic. So she didn't quite stick the landing for me with this book, but I thought overall I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really great book to read for women in translation, and I buddy read it with Britta, so that of course was delightful as well. And I read that one on ebook. And then today, the 14th, I finished The Undocumented Americans by Karla, Cornejo, Villavicencio. And this is a book that was quite popular last year, and it is nonfiction, and it is a collection of essays, basically, where Karla, who is herself an undocumented immigrant, talks about what it's like to be undocumented in the United States. And so each of the chapters, there's 6 chapters in this book, and each of the chapters sort of goes in depth into different experiences by undocumented folks in the United States, and it was really, really powerful. There was things in here that I did not know, and I've done quite a bit of reading about immigration and the barriers to immigration in the United States, but the sections in here where she talks about how undocumented workers were the people who did a lot of the cleanup work after 9/11 at the World Trade Center site, and how they got sent in New Orleans after Hurricane Katrina and places like that, and how those people are the the unsung workers and the people that we don't recognize, who put their lives at risk and who are, if they survive that, they're currently experiencing health problems, and we don't, as Americans, we don't know about that. So that was one part that was really, really powerful. And then there's just a host of other things about how, immigrants come here and they work all these awful jobs that nobody else wants to do. And they basically use their youth and their strength to do work that nobody else wants to do. And then when they're older or they have health problems, like there's no support system for them in the US. There's no safety net for them, and everybody just forgets about them. And then they have nothing to like sort of protect them from that stage of their life. And that's so sad. And then, stories about adults being deported and their American-born children being left with no parents and things like that. How day labor works for undocumented immigrants. Just all these different things. And throughout it all, Karla's voice is very, very strong. She has a lot of rage about this. She has a lot of, anger that she's working through herself, and it comes out in how she writes about these issues. And, I can't blame her for that anger at all. I felt a lot of it myself while I was reading this. I thought this was a really, really strong collection. And I think it's really important information. I think it should be read by all Americans, and I'm really glad that I've read it myself now. So, yes, highly recommend that one. So that's where we're at here on Saturday, August 14th, the last day of my vacation here at the lake. Tomorrow is Sunday, and we'll be heading home to get ready for work to start again on Monday. But, that's how these things go. Anyway, I feel like it's been a very successful week in terms of reading and a very successful week in terms of relaxation for my vacation. But I will be continuing to check in with you throughout the month as I see how far I get with this reading project that I've embarked on. It's Sunday, August 15th, and last night before bed, I finished this book, Later, by Stephen King. This was a really, really fast-paced, really exciting read, and I really enjoyed it. It was just one of those books you just can't put down. The pages kept turning. So our main character is Jamie. He is a young boy, and he starts his narration remembering back when he's six years old. And we follow his story throughout his childhood till he is a young adult. And he's telling us, from the perspective of this, being like 21, 22 years old, what happened during his childhood. Jamie has an unusual ability that his mother and he know about, and his mother tells him that they need to keep a secret between the two of them. And this little talent of his gets him into several messes during his childhood. And it was just great. There was a bit at the end that shocked the heck out of me, like to the point where I went, oh my God, and like just couldn't believe it. My mind was blown. So yeah, I don't want to give away anything about this book. I think you need to go into it pretty blind in order to get the full enjoyment out of it. It is a horror. It's not like really, really horror-y, but there are some gory bits in here. There's some blood and guts type things. So if that is something you're sensitive to, then probably give this one a pass. But I thought it was really great. I really enjoyed my time spent with this book. So yeah, this was a fun read. I also just finished on audiobook Minor Detail, which I've already forgotten the author's name, so I will put it up here, but it is another work in translation for Women in Translation Month. And it is a short, I listened to it on audiobook, and it's a short audiobook, like 4 hours long. And it is all about, the overall theme is the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. And the book is kind of divided into two halves, and the first half tells the story of this Israeli army unit on the southern border of the newly formed state of Israel in the late 1940s, like 1949, and they are like, you're basically in the perspective of the commander of this camp, following what they're doing there on these patrols. They're trying to hold the border, basically. And there's some pretty horrific things that happen. It's not a nice group of men, and they end up doing some pretty nasty stuff. And then the second half of the book is this young Palestinian woman who finds out about this incident that happened, and it actually happened on the day 25 years ago, the day that she was born. So the day that she's born, her birthday, 25 years prior, on the same day, this horrible incident occurred. And so she gets interested in this incident, and then decides she needs to investigate further. And so she takes it upon herself to try to look into what happened during this incident and to try to get the true story. And it really is an indictment of how Palestinians are treated now and how Palestinians were treated then. It is, a real look into the whole situation. I found it really enlightening. It was difficult to listen to at times, but I thought it was quite enlightening, and yeah, a really worthwhile read. I definitely recommend that you check it out. So those are the last 2 books that I finished today. I finished those both today. Just finished that audiobook like 5 minutes ago. So yeah, I don't really have any really detailed thoughts yet. It's still sort of percolating around in my mind, but I wanted to capture this before I got too much further along. Anyway, I will check in again later.